Good evening, everybody. For everyone who's joined us live on Facebook, as well as all the folks who have joined us on Zoom, have registered and joined us on Zoom. Thank you all for being here. I am Padma Kuppa, State Representative for House District 41, which represents all of Troy and all of Clawson. And for the last several weeks, we have been getting a lot of questions from small business owners. And so we thought we would bring together, I approached Representative Ellison because just as I have Clawson, Representative Ellison has Royal Oak in his district. And I know that we share a concern for all our businesses because they are so critical to the health of our cities. Our downtowns, our main streets. And so we're here with some experts, people who want to help. And I'm going to introduce the first person that that has been a resource to me over these last few weeks, as I have worked with the Oakland County government, Oakland County Treasurer, Andy Meisner, former state legislator, as well as just a downright good person who really wants to help local small business and is ready whenever I have a question that I don't have an answer for, to help me get those answers to the local small business. The latest one was, I think, the Motion Picture Institute. They asked me a question, and so Andy and I and Doug from the Motion Picture Institute are in a email chain going back and forth on what they need to do. So Andy, do you want to say a few things?
Just that I'm very grateful to you, Representative, and Representative Ellison for bringing us together around this really critical moment and critical need. You know, everyone's focus is obviously on health, but a lot of us, you know, are very concerned also about the well-being of our small businesses. You know, they're the backbone of our economy, and they are suffering. And, you know, the resources that we can bring to bear to assist them, I think can make a big difference in figuring out if they make it or not, and can really limit the long-term harm that we might face. And so really excited to talk about some of the resources that are available and be a part of the conversation.
Thank you. Representative Ellison, you want to introduce our other panelists and just provide a few remarks?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Padma, first of all, for helping us get this thing in front of the small business owners. And I think it's very important. To those that don't know me, my name is Jim Ellison. I'm State Representative District 26, which covers the cities of Royal Oak and Madison Heights. Before that, I was mayor of Royal Oak for 13 years. I was serving during the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. So I've kind of ridden this boat before and navigated through the rough waters. Joining us tonight is Todd Cook, who's the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, which is the department that oversees Michigan's Unemployment Insurance Agency. Previously, before that, Todd had worked in both chambers of the House, the Senate and the House, and he brings a lot of experience. And I know he's been on the front line with my staff and probably your staff in trying to put out the fires that our constituents are calling our office with, and they've been very helpful. The other panelist we've got here is Sean Kammer. Sean is the downtown Royal Oak manager. He's been with Royal Oak for about 3 years, but he has served in other communities in Michigan, including Latham Village and Flint. Sean is currently pursuing a PhD in political science at MSU. Sean, I'm going to throw something back at you. As you know, the downtowns of both Clawson, which is Kuppa's district, and Royal Oak in my district are fairly typical of many downtowns across our state, where small businesses make up a large part of the revenue and the city's vibrancy. Can you share what is happening and what you see and are doing to help our local business owners weather this storm?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question, and thank you for allowing me to be here. Representative Ellison, I do want to thank you for your leadership on this. You've been a great resource to me, both you and your staff in your office, as we try to rally the community together around our small businesses. So there's a considerable amount of stress on our small businesses right now because of this crisis. You know, the stay-at-home order and everything are definitely intended to maintain public health and whatnot, and that has to be our first priority. But we also know that there are a lot of businesses down here that really depend on daily revenue in downtown. They depend on foot traffic, and that's simply not possible right now during this crisis. So we have a lot of downtown businesses. Some are in some pretty dire straits. So some of the things that we're doing as the DDA in downtown Royal Oak, for instance, is we've worked with the city to put together a digital map that displays all of the businesses that are offering delivery services, whether that be curbside delivery or other things such as Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, things like that. If you go to downtownroyaloak.org, you can follow a link that will take you to that map and connect you to some of your favorite businesses. Secondly, some of the things that we're doing, you may have read in Cranes or the Royal Oak Tribune, is recently the DDA just passed a $2 million resolution to create programs dedicated to supporting small businesses when this crisis is over. So the idea right now is to try to put together some local resources to try to get businesses back on their feet when they're ready to reopen. So we're currently working to develop some of these programs right now. I've been on the phone with members of the DDA's Business Marketing Committee almost on a daily basis as we've been tossing back these ideas and working with our city attorney to determine what we can and can't do as a DDA using TIF dollars. And I think we've made a lot of progress and a lot of inroads on some new programs that we're going to be happy to roll out here in May.
That's good to hear. One of the things that we need to know as legislators up in Lansing is what can we do from our end to help small businesses start to come out of this cocoon and emerge again strongly. Is there something that you need us to do? Any legislation we need to do? Or what can we do to help the businesses start coming out?
Well, I think that there's a couple of things that could be done. So first of all, I think just providing that sense of leadership to help, people in your districts, recognize that there are small businesses that are really deserving of support in downtowns, so helping, provide a beacon of leadership to connect people to that downtown map I mentioned so that they can order carry out, they can support downtown restaurants during this time, I think is a very important gesture. I think also some of the programs that had recently come out, such as the state of Michigan helping to fund grant program that Oakland County orchestrated. I know that myself and Economic Development Manager Todd Fenton were part of the local district board that helped allocate a lot of that funding. So I think that, if possible, anything like that would be truly remarkable, to continued support to make sure that these businesses have access to resources so that they can reopen. Good
stuff. Thanks, Sean. Padma, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, so to build on that, I actually wanted to talk to Andy. Can you tell us a little bit about the money that we approved when we were in the legislature on March 17th, we approved about $150 million in coronavirus response. And I think 10 million of it went to the MEDC. I know that much of that went to the county and then the counties. Can you talk about that, Andy? A little bit about what's happening at the county level? Because I know the county's taking a lot of initiatives.
Yeah, and we're very grateful to our friends at the state, to Governor Whitmer for her decisive leadership, to our friends in the legislature for recognizing the seriousness of the situation and allocating some resources to help. There was a little over $1 million that made its way through MEDC to Oakland County for the grant program that I think Sean is talking about. And then the county leveraged that MEDC money with an investment of its own of a little bit more than $1 million. And the county was, as I understand it, broken up into 12 regions. And each region, ideally, there were folks like Sean, who have got incredible background, really good pedigree in economic development and downtown development, who became part of a screening committee. And I tell you, it's a little heartbreaking, but the county received about 7,500 applications for this program. The program would provide up to $10,000 in the form of a grant. To my knowledge, and I'm not sure if Sean could correct me, but I don't think that any of the money has been allocated at this time. And I think that they are maybe going through a bit of a process of maybe finalizing that. And so, Sean may have more recent information, but listen, for the folks that are selected, it's going to help. And I'm grateful for it. But, you also heard Sean talk about how Royal Oak, just put $2 million into a very important strategy just for the city of Royal Oak. And Oakland County has 61 communities. And so, my hope is that we can build on the strength of this initial program and expand it. And that's part of the reason that I've really been trying to get the word out about some of the SBA or Small Business Administration programs that are also available, whether it's the disaster relief loan, the Paycheck Protection Program, or the debt relief program for folks that are currently SBA lenders, just because the federal government's got a lot deeper pockets than we do at the county. And those are important resources. But I think that those are all important, as well as some of the business counseling services that we offer through our office. If somebody's a business and is trying to deal with it and budget and figure out how to work through it, we try to provide counseling to assist them as well.
So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. There's the CARES Act and the money that came through there.
Yeah.
A lot of people were told to go through their bank and provide the information. You
Yeah.
saw the challenge that the folks at Motion Picture Institute faced. I
Yeah.
have an even sadder story, and that is Clawson Shoe Repair. They're about to start the third generation, and they went looking for money, but they couldn't get any, because they don't bank with one of the approved banks. And each of the banks had different forms, the federal form that was given versus what each bank was doing, and there was differences. Do you have any ideas maybe on legislation as a former state legislator, or right now, immediately, what are the things that we could do?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate your connection to your constituents, to be that close to them, to be touching base and hearing from these folks. I guess the thing that we were talking about with Doug was the Paycheck Protection Program. And, it's a government program, so it's going to have some challenges. And it had some real problems. And I'm very grateful, frankly, that, Speaker Pelosi and the U.S. House of Representatives is working to make some necessary changes in that program. I think everyone probably saw the news about Ruth's Chris Steakhouse getting PPP awards on an individual basis. So it's not even like it was corporate. It was the individual Ruth's Chris that were receiving this. And, that's not the intent. And it also wasn't the intent for this to be a sort of a huge benefit to the banks. But what it gave the banks was inordinate power over the circumstance and the ability to choose amongst their customers about who would participate. Now, for folks that didn't have a bank or credit union who were SBA lenders and could be a facilitator for the Paycheck Protection Program, one refinement that has come is that financial technology companies like PayPal, and I think also Intuit perhaps, but they have been added as companies that can act as intermediaries instead of the bank or credit union. And so I'm hopeful that that will help to democratize the program. And I also hope that they're able to get a bit of means testing involved because these resources should go to businesses that really need them, like that shoe shop in downtown Clawson or some of the fantastic businesses that make downtown Royal Oak so special. But it's very deep pockets. That was $350 billion. It was depleted in 13 days. And as they are right now in the midst of negotiating another round, I think that money will be available. And I'm hopeful that folks like, Doug and some of the mom and pop sorts of places can have a seat at the table and a shot at getting this very meaningful amount of money, which the Paycheck Protection Program, of course, up to $10 million for companies of 500 or fewer employees will provide 2.5 months of monthly payroll for a company that's eligible. And you do apply through your bank or credit union. And so depending on the volume of SBA loans that they do, that could dictate, whether or not you get it. But you can get it. And if you do, if you use up to 75% of that money to keep your employees on the job, or if you've laid them off to call them back to work, then the grant or the loan then becomes forgivable. And the company doesn't have to pay that one back. And I think that it will be impactful in keeping folks on the job. But my hope is the next round can also be equitable and fair and be a boon to Main Street and not just to Wall Street.
Thank you so much. I want to turn it over to Jim. I don't know if you all heard. I have 4 people in my house right now, and we're all tight. I'm sure everybody understands this. Somebody just started playing piano. So let me turn it over to Jim, and maybe we can talk about gig workers and things like that while I take care of getting them to stop playing piano behind me.
Thanks, Padma. We have similar problems. I have 4 adults in the house, but I've got a lot of dogs, so I'm waiting for the dogs to start barking and disrupt. So if you hear the dog barking, I know the family's out there trying to keep them down, but sometimes you just can't. Again, going back to Todd. Todd, I'm sure you're thoroughly aware of what our staff and our offices are going through right now, dealing with questions and concerns from constituents about collecting their unemployment and what they need to do, what are they doing wrong, what can they do right. Can you give us an update, a status update of where you guys are at right now and the progress you've made in trying to smooth the rails a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to be with everyone today. I'll just say for everyone watching either here live or later on as recording, both Representative Ellison and Representative Kuppa, as well as Treasurer Meisner, are outstanding advocates, not just only for the small business community in Southeast Oakland County, but also just as residents of whole, and have taken a very measured and thoughtful approach to how we deal with this crisis. It's something unprecedented, and I just really appreciate their leadership and want to make sure they get the credit that they're due. They also have some fantastic staff who are trying to help people as much as possible. So just to give some historical context to where we are and the size of this crisis as we're in terms of unemployment. So today, with the U.S. Department of Labor, the official numbers were released for the state of Michigan for the week ending this past weekend. We're at 1.2 million initial claims. So 1.2 million people in the state of Michigan have filed for unemployment. To put that in perspective, there's just about 6 million people in the entire state of work age. So we're about 25% of the state has filed for unemployment benefits. That's an unprecedented volume. During the difficult times that Representative Ellison had spoken about while he was mayor of Royal Oak, the highest we had ever seen in a week during 07, 09, 08 was about 77,000 people filing for unemployment. We've seen 77,000 people file several times on several different days. So it's just a tremendous amount on that. We're paying out benefits to about 820,000 people. We'll probably be close to getting to 1 million by this time next week, if not earlier. And we've seen payouts of about $1.3 billion. So that's money that people can use to help support the bills that they do have incoming, to help with groceries and other things like that. And so while we're proud of the effort that Michigan Unemployment Agency has done in terms of getting these efforts up, we were one of the first states in the nation to be able to provide the extended benefit, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. And also provide benefits because of the CARES Act to those gig economy and self-employed 1099 workers that we know are very active in Oakland County as a whole, but especially in the communities of Troy and Madison Heights and Royal Oak and Clawson. What has happened with the passage of the Federal CARES Act, it allowed us to expand eligibility for folks who normally may not be eligible for unemployment benefits under the regular standard state program. And so that there's two parts of that. So people who would normally be eligible for benefits, in addition to their state benefit, they're also eligible for an additional $600 a week federal addition to the regular payment. There's nothing they have to do addition to that. That's automatically entered in. That's something that the CARES Act provided for. And so that's really providing a significant amount of relief. Under state law, the state benefit is capped at $362 a week. Prior to the COVID outbreak, the average state claim across the state was about $325 a week. So now we're able to provide a state benefit thanks to the help that the delegation had worked on in terms of their partners across the country, providing some additional benefit through the CARES Act. That's an additional $600 a week that will be available until July 31st. And probably most important to a lot of folks listening in is the eligibility expansion in terms of self-employed, 1099, contract workers, people who may have limited work experience. Those folks are going to be covered under what we call the PUA, which is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. Those folks are going to be able to get their state benefit allotment plus the $600. When people go to michigan.gov/UIA, they're able to sign in. There's some great resources in there, not only for employees, but for employers as well. And I suggest everybody, when you get a chance, if you're in that situation, to look at that and see how there may be some help for you to be either provide directly to yourself or to your employees. Under the PUA plan, we're able to give those benefits. There's a couple of things that have caught people that have questions often coming up, and as Representative Ellison and Representative Kuppa deal with constituents, something that's come up not just for their offices but other offices. If you are one of those 1099 workers, self-employed, there is a place in the application that asks you for wage verification. And we've had people say, well, I couldn't get back to my office, I don't have my taxes filed, things like that, and they have concerns about it. So what happens is, if you are unable to provide wage verification, the state provides you with a minimum payment, which under the federal guidelines is 1/2 of the state average, so $160 plus the additional federal benefit. So that would be $760 would be a minimum payment that's available to folks. And then later on, when people are able to upload wage verification, we're able to make sure they receive the maximum amount, backdate that to the time they're eligible to ensure they get all of the benefits they're eligible for. And we just want to encourage folks that normally would think they weren't eligible for unemployment to go on the website. This new federal program covers a tremendous amount of people. We want to make sure that folks that are in these type of jobs and entrepreneurs get the coverage and get the benefits they deserve. So again, go to michigan.gov/UIA. And if you're concerned that I'm a freelancer or I didn't have enough wages or things like that, still go there. Almost everyone will be covered under the CARES program.
Really some important stuff, Todd. Thank you. For the questions we get in our offices, I'm going to throw those at you. Maybe you can give us a quick answer. Number one, what information will I need to apply for benefits? Number two, what is the best method and time to file? Number three is how long does it take to receive payment and how will I be paid? And number four, how much will I receive?
Sure. Those are all great questions. And so, the best way for people to apply is online. Obviously, the offices around the state, which were a great resource for people, aren't available under the current health crisis. So we encourage people to go to michigan.gov/UIA. We have asked people, because of the tremendous volume of people coming in to help us kind of regulate the flow, that people with last names A through L use the online portal to register in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then people M through Z come on board Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, with Saturday a day for kind of everyone to come on board. We also encourage people to get online during off-peak hours, which is 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. The servers that we're on, obviously, we're seeing a tremendous volume of people from who are normally applying for UI, but they're also the servers that support the entire state government. And as we're moving to work at home situations, just like every business in Michigan is, we've had to move staff offline, out of offices and into work at home situations. So, I think that is something in terms of, how you apply, where you apply. In terms of what you need your social security number, you need your Michigan driver's license or ID, state ID that you're able to have. You need to have the address of your last employer, as well as the FEIN number from that last employer. You need to have some record so you can mark down your wages from the last quarter. And that helps us ensure that you get the full benefit that you're entitled to. So that's in terms of what you need and where you need to go to do it. In terms of how people are paid, you can choose two methods. One is direct deposit, which helps move funds into your account much faster. But if you're in a situation where maybe you don't have a bank account, we know people are in those kinds of situations, or for some other reason you want to make sure that there's other ways available, you can apply for a debit card. It's a card that gets provided to you that will come in the mail. Obviously, there'll be a delay in terms of receiving that card, and sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to get money loaded onto that card. But that's how people receive payment. About 70% of the people across the state are enrolled in direct deposit, electronic deposit of funds. About 30% receive a debit card. And in terms of how much people receive, it's based on past wages. Again, under state law, the maximum benefit for the state portion of unemployment is $362 a week. The average around the state prior to COVID was $325. And then since March 28th, which is when at the end of March, the Federal CARES Act was signed, and then the state of Michigan signed an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor to be able to provide those benefits. So we've been eligible since March 28th to be able to pay people this additional $600 a week, and that's available through July 31st. And that's a great point. And we know that people are having trouble getting through at times. We know people sometimes it's been hard with the volume. We want to ensure that everyone who's entitled to benefits get their full benefits. And these benefits are eligible back to the time when you were separated from work. Some people ask, well, I signed up on Friday, but I actually got separated earlier in the week. When do I put my date down? Your eligibility starts from when you were separated.
Thank you. Padma, I think you've got a question for Todd.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's a lot of great resources also on the michigan.gov/coronavirus site. But we have our first question. Thank you so much for everyone who's submitted questions. We have a couple of questions already, but before we go to those, I just want to say, if you're on Facebook Live, please put your message out there. We will find it and we will get your answer. And also, if you're registered and you're in the Zoom, please put your question either in the Q&A or in the chat screen. Shelley Kemp is on from the Royal Oak Chamber. It's something that I heard also from the Troy Chamber, and I'm going to throw it out there to anyone who wants to try to answer. The Royal Oak Chamber is a 501c6, just like a lot of chambers. Because they are 501c6, they are not able to apply for most of the CARES loans, including the payroll protection program. Now, chambers are going to be on the front lines, helping us get back to normal, helping the members navigate through difficult times. And Shelley wants to know, are there any thoughts about how to support chambers during this time? And she specifically asks you, Jim, you know that we count on a very large percentage of our revenue through community events, which aren't going to be happening. And so how do we keep our doors open to help small business? They've refunded $8,000 to Bloom vendors. I'm sorry about that because I won't be able to go to Bloom.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's been weighing in my mind because I do know how important our summer events are to our community and to our commerce downtown. I don't have an answer. I mean, a lot of it is going to depend on when we finally get an all clear or clear enough to do this stuff, because we have still events that are scheduled for late in the summer that we still don't know if they're going to happen. And so Shelley, I don't have a quick answer for you. But these are the problems that we're hoping to get the questions so we can go back and say, this is what we're experiencing. This is what our districts are having a problem with. How can we help them? And, you know, maybe we'll come up with some kind of answer. That's the best I can give you right now.
You know, Padma, may I chime in on that one too? Just briefly.
Please do.
Yeah, we, I guess last week we did like a virtual town hall, and we had a representative from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and we had a lot of the chambers that participated because they are on the front lines of this whole crisis. And, you know, one of the things that seems to me that we should do is we should expand eligibility for the Paycheck Protection Program to C6s. 501c6s, which the chambers are organized under. They have such great capacity to assist their members, to connect them with resources. And so I think it would be very efficient to expand eligibility. And that's something that I'm, you know, plan to share with some of our congressional delegation, in hopes that that can be a refinement that's added for the next round of the PPP program.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. We've communicated both with Congresswoman Stevens as well as both senators. Representative Ellison and I are part of a downtown business coalition, and we sent a letter to both the senators and have been in constant contact with Congresswoman Stevens to talk about not only 501c6s, but also nonprofits in general. I serve on the board of one, and having actually serve on the board of two, and having to make sure that we also, when we talk about small business, we talk about nonprofits as well, because they also need payroll protection, and I think many of them have applied. But again, the mechanism was just a little chaotic, and so we need to make sure that we convey that to them as well. Next question, and I don't know who, again, I'm going to throw it out there. A question that has been received. One of the small business owners wanted to know if your income is derived from a Schedule K because you're an LLC, would that be a loss of income that they would apply through the UIA? Or Todd, do you have an answer to that one?
So yeah, so under the PUA system, a lot of small business owners are able to get relief. It depends on, and I'm not a tax expert, but it really depends on how the owner is paid, whether you are paid on a draw or whether you collect a salary. I would encourage people to go on the website and apply, and there'll be some direction there. And so we really are trying to be as flexible as possible to provide people with relief. We know, especially for small businesses, the number one concern is liquidity. These are businesses that don't have weeks of funds set aside to cover bills. And although they can get some relief for their employees through the unemployment system, and a lot of businesses are doing a great job making sure their employees are covered, we know as owners, sometimes there's some challenges there. There's other bills that they're not able to defer. And so again, I'm not exactly sure in terms of how that would be, a Schedule K would be considered as part of that. But again, the CARES Act is very flexible, and we're trying to be as flexible as we can to provide people with relief, because as we do enter a stage at some point in terms of reopening the economy, we want to make sure that people are able to come back. We want to make sure that we're being thoughtful in terms of helping them survive where we are now. So again, I would encourage you to get on there and file.
So a question via Facebook. Thank you very much for submitting it. A question about the CARES money. Now, I know that the MEDC, what we approved as the state legislature went through MEDC to MEDC and then was distributed. How is the CARES money being, is it, Andy, do you want to speak to that, or Sean, if you want to, how is the CARES money being? You know,
350 billion for like the Paycheck Protection Program. came from the CARES Act. The CARES Act also provided the UI unemployment insurance boost that Todd talked about, and had, really a whole range of, services included. The state of Michigan got 3.8 billion. It included the enhancements. It also included 100 billion for hospitals, 40 billion to pay for personal protection equipment, and then the bulk of it into these paycheck protection, but also the disaster relief loan that is available. It's a 3.75% loan that's offered to businesses affected adversely by the coronavirus crisis. And then, FEMA got 45 billion, Defense Department got 10 billion, and education got 30 billion. 5 billion went into the community development block grant. But the bulk of the expenditure from CARES went into the 350 billion for the paycheck protection. The third piece that I'd mentioned, that this is only good for you if you're an existing Small Business Administration borrower. Like, I'm on the board at the Oakland County Business Finance Corporation, where we partner with the SBA and with area banks and credit unions to help area businesses and institutions get 504B loans through SBA. And the debt relief program says that if you're an existing SBA borrower, you can get not only a 6-month reprieve from having to pay your note on your SBA loan, but the SBA will actually pay your note for 6 months. And so that's one of the options that's out there that's not discussed quite as much, but the PPP is the one that got the most attention and probably had the most economic impact.
Those are the ones that are being applied for directly, though, right? That's not being done through the counties. It's the CARES Act money that's being directly given to whoever applies once their application.
CARES Act goes by way of your bank, credit union, or now PayPal or one of the fintech firms.
Okay. I have a couple of questions, and maybe we can just talk about it. Sean, you must have businesses like this. We had another teletown hall with Rosemary Bayer, and we were talking to someone who had put all her life savings into opening a business that was supposed to launch in April. And I know that Clawson, we have Pumachug that was supposed to open, and here we are. And it's one of those cornerstone, right on the corner of Main Street and 14 Mile. And I was so excited when it was going to open, and here we are. So what do we do for all these people that have invested money and they were supposed to open at this time? Do you have any?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of complexities here too. I mean, I've spoken with some business owners who were waiting on final permit inspections that can't take place at this time. So they're currently hemorrhaging money until they can actually get a lot of those things taken care of as well. I've spoken to some small retailers, in our downtown who've had situations in which they've put considerable amounts of money into purchasing inventory that they expected to sell for St. Patrick's Day, Mother's Day. So a lot of things that they would sell in the spring that they know they're not going to get a return on their investment on. So it was stories like that really helped motivate a lot of the board members of the DDA to start putting together programs that could, potentially help out a lot of these business owners, and help get foot traffic back on the streets and help get them reopen again. So I know when we deal with a lot of, emergency situations, there's two types of assistance that typically can help out. And the first is the relief, right? And that's the immediate assistance, and then that second part, that has more of an economic development perspective to it. That's your recovery. How do you come back from that? So, unfortunately, a lot of smaller municipalities don't have the budget to mount these massive programs that can, compensate for the immediate losses. But there are a lot of things that small communities and DDAs can do to start that recovery process and start to plan for that to bounce back.
Jim, as a former city mayor, do you have, because you said, and I think we're very fortunate that you have this experience as a former mayor of Royal Oak during the downturn.
What we saw is the businesses that look positive and try to reinvent themselves and come up with ideas to help them continue on, much like what they're doing right now. In a much more restricted atmosphere of curb service and whatever they're doing, but it's tough. You've got to have a good financial plan to get through this, because your commerce is going to go down. And in Sean, you know this, downtown Royal Oak, it's basically an entertainment district. It's got bars and restaurants, and it's got theaters, and it's got music and stuff like that, and that's our lifeblood. So I did hear something the other day, is when we get to the point that we are going to start talking about opening up downtown Royal Oak again, or downtown Clawson, or whatever, it was suggested that we have an event. We plan an event that would we close down Main Street, we close down Washington, and everybody just come out and celebrate being free again, if you will. And the restaurants can all come up with ideas, and we can work on temporary adjustments of serving alcohol outside the limits of it. We've done it before. It can be done. But I think a good plan like that would you just got to get the people back downtown and let them know that we haven't died and we haven't gone away. And all these businesses need help, and it's going to be up to the residents to help them get that push back on.
And I think that's the thing that's key for me anyway, is that we have that spirit of resilience. Entrepreneurship and small business is why we're going to come back, because people are going to see ways out of this dark time that we're in right now. I also want to bring up one more thing that the state has done, which I think the governor's office under DHHS has done, which is really important. A lot of people are feeling anxiety and just persistent mental health just niggling at you. And so there is a warm line for those who are interested to just share some of their mental health challenges. If you don't have someone to speak with, a lot of people are living alone. And the number for that warm line, as it's called, is 888-PEER-753 or 888-733-7753. This was announced about 10 days ago. It's a peer-run warm line to aid persons with mental health needs during the pandemic. There are others, national lines that are open 24/7, but this is open 10 a.m. to 2 a.m., 7 days a week. Robert Gordon, the MDHH, Health and Human Services. I can't say the acronyms are abundant no matter where you go. When I was at Chrysler, we had lots of acronyms, and now here I am in state government, and we have a lot of acronyms. So the Health and Human Services Director, Robert Gordon, said that this will help individuals with not only long-term mental health challenges, but also for people who are going through challenges and anxiety right now. So please call that number if you are in need. And business owners, they've got people to pay, salaries to pay. They've got, before we conclude, I just want to give everyone a chance to, do you want to say something, Andy? Sorry.
I just wanted to quickly dovetail on your comment about that warm line. And I'm really so grateful for you to mention mental health and just how important it is during this time. I wanted to mention one other hotline, if I may, that was started out of the Wayne State University School of Social Work, Dean Kubiak, in partnership with some of the other departments. They started a mental health hotline specifically for our frontline healthcare workers and first responders. Folks that might not be able to talk to their employer about what's going on. But I thought that it was a really heroic response to such a tough challenge. And if you put yourself in the place of some of these folks that are on the front line, either working as a nurse or doctor in the hospital, or, you know, a police officer responding to some of these different situations. It puts a great stress on folks' mental health. And we're counting on those heroes to continue working, you know, throughout this. We're asking so much of them. And so 888-910-1636 is the hotline for any frontline folks that might be out there and, you know, want a free, confidential opportunity to chat, kind of also in that mental health category.
Thank you very much. But before we conclude, I kind of want to ask our hero here with the UIA, Todd Cook. Could you say a few words?
Yeah, no, again, I appreciate the opportunity. I just want to stress to everyone watching the advocacy on your behalf by Representative Ellison and Representative Kuppa and Treasurer Meisner is really important. You've heard today a lot of conversations about some of the federal programs, which we certainly appreciate. But they need a lot of refinement to be more effective. And so they've been strong advocates, and they all have fantastic staff who've really been working very hard to get help us all get through this. So again, for those people who are wondering whether they're eligible for benefits, they're small business people or they're freelancers or things like that, I just encourage you, go to the website, start working on an application to benefits now. You're entitled to that. That's something that you've earned. And we want to make sure that people are in an ability so they can weather the storm we're in now, because we do know at some point we're going to come out on that. And so I appreciate the opportunity to kind of talk about that, make sure people understand what they're entitled to, make sure that they get out there and apply for those benefits to help them kind of weather the storm. And again, just thanks for the leadership everyone on the call tonight has provided Southeast Oakland County.
Thank you. Sean?
Sean, anything to add?
Well, I just want to express my gratitude for being able to participate in this and provide some information that people may find helpful. I know it's definitely going to be a road to recovery. There's going to be a lot of effort involved. You know, I know people are at home, but it's important that we maintain our sense of community and supporting our local shops and small businesses as much as we can. You know, and you know, I know our downtown is very resilient and we will bounce back. You know, it won't be long before summer hits, and, you know, we might get through this, and, you know, people will start to feel more comfortable going back out once these orders are lifted and once the public health is, of course, safeguarded. But you know, I think that a lot of our community will come together and we'll really show the strength that we have in our downtown.
Padma, let me jump in here. This event, this pandemic is not over. It's not even close to being over yet. I know that the governor and her staff are working very hard to make the right decisions to keep the pandemic, keep the coronavirus under control. She has indicated in her latest talks that she's looking at options to maybe try to slowly get us out of where we're at and loosening up some of the restrictions. I do know that she's got another executive order coming out tomorrow. We don't know what's in it. That could be in it. If it is, it's the first small step to recovery, but recovery is still a long time away. And then after we get out of this pandemic, then we're going to deal with the after effects. All these frontline people, all these heroes that we call them. It wouldn't surprise me at all that they're going to be suffering with some sort of PTSD. I mean, you can't go into this type of battle and dealing with your patients passing away without it being some kind of mental impact. So we've got to be prepared to deal with that too, and help all these people get their lives back on track as they've helped us save our loved ones.
Andy, do you have any?
Just to say thank you, Representative Kuppa and Representative Ellison, again, for your leadership and partnership. Very steady leadership during choppy times. Also want to thank Sean. You know, it's a beautiful downtown, and you know, our downtowns are one of the things that distinguish us and lend to our sense of place and economic viability. And also to my friend Todd Cook, thank you for everything that you're doing as a part of the administration. And those numbers are stark about the unemployment. I didn't realize that the peak had been 70-something thousand, and then it's up to 1.2 million. And I think that you and your colleagues are responding to the crisis in a very effective way. I would just say that if anybody needs assistance from me or my office, they can reach me at 421-ANDY. If you're a business out there and trying to navigate some of these difficult times, or just somebody worried about finances, give us a call. The resources are out there, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Let me add also that my excellent staff is working constantly at home, fielding daily phone calls from people looking for solutions, looking for answers. If you need to contact my office, we're a phone call away, we're an email away. The office number is 517-373-3818, or you can email us at jimellison, one word, at house.mi.gov. We'd be happy to take care of you.
Likewise, I do have to thank my team, Ashley. And Ashley, you are the best. And we wouldn't be able to do as much as we do for the people of Troy and Clawson without our staff. You can reach my office at Padma Kuppa at house.mi.gov. If there's a question that we didn't answer, please email or call us. If you need help, 517-373-1783. Again, 517-373-1783. And stay tuned on Facebook, because we'll be doing coffee hours and virtual events until we can be back to see people face to face. And any new information, not just a governor's executive order tomorrow, but anything else that's happening in the legislature or within state government, whatever we can provide, follow us on social media. Both Jim and I have active social media accounts, and I know Andy does as well. Treasurer Meisner does as well. So hope to see you. If not at Bloom, but some other thing somewhere else in Royal Oak or in Clawson when we do the ribbon cut for our Paycheck on the corner. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us this evening.
怎么又晚了？
这诊所太远了，这里多开几间就好了。
政府里需要有我们的人，需求才会被听到。
哎，你这……哎，你们两个都对，可光说有什么用呢？填好2020年的人口普查，就可以协助公共资金的分配，比如地方医疗、更多的政府席位。想要给自己发声啊，赶紧上网填，打电话也行。
请上2020census.gov 完成普查。